My brothers and sisters, yesterday we talked about names and obvious labels. Tonight, I'm taping in the evening before you get up. There is a stole that I wear when I am visiting and I'm not going to be fully robed. I want you to think of this as a symbol. And those of you who knew what it was before I explained what it was would have automatically known who I was and what I did and what you could expect from me. I want to share with you some thoughts that come from some of the things that have shaped my life, things that have helped me to understand a little bit about what it is to minister, to be a pastor, to be a priest, to be a counselor. So I'm going to share with you some things that have brought healing in my life. The first is a mug. And Albert Camus, it's a quote, he was the writer who wrote La Peste that I studied in French when I did A-levels in 1968 to 70 at Queen's College. I was young at the time, and so there were some things that I didn't fully understand. But the pest, La Peste, it was the plague, which is much like COVID-19. So now I understand some of the things that I was reading at that time. But when I found this mug, I had been going through that season I told you of my mother's death and the house burning down and all of those kinds of things. And it says, in the midst of winter, I finally learned that there was in me an invincible summer. My brothers and sisters, it seems so small now, but at that time it was one of those life-changing moments that just spoke of not allowing the winter on the outside to define who you were going to be. And the word invincible summer had such power and such strength and such hope for me that it brought me out of the darkness of that time into God's light, because I recognized that I could not define myself by what was happening to me and around me, but that there was so much more within me, and that I had to trust God to bring that out in the midst of suffering and distress. Another thing that I found that same summer, that was the summer of 96 by then. And this was a sculpture that I saw, I think it was in Jamaica, when we went for a trip in that same year, as I found the mug. And the symmetry of the family with the male, female, and child, it was just awe-inspiring. It was just amazing. And because my husband and myself, we have one child, this just captured us. And it spoke of the flow, it spoke of the lines, it just spoke of the strength and the unity and the affection and the connectedness. It spoke of so many things, and that's what art does. It talks to you, and different people may see and hear different things depending on what your experiences are. And so I want to leave those two with you. Something that's written on something that's a mug, and just may have cost a couple of dollars in a store, but for me it was truth. It was so liberating. And of course, Albert Camus was an old friend, so I felt an instant connection. And that would have been, I guess, it would have been 30 years before, because I would have been studying with Camus. I would have been in high school, and that would have been around, as I said, 68. So I was 14 when I started and 16 when I finished. So it was that season, and And then 1996 was when I would have come across this one. But the quote was from my adolescence. The mug was from the same adult year. And so I just want you to find things that speak to you now, of hope, of peace, of joy, of love. Look around. And so I buy things that speak to me, and I allow them to continue to speak to me. So we're talking 96, and we're now 2020. So I keep treasures, even though it's chipped. It reminds me that out of brokenness can still come the wholeness of one's spiritual experience and the connectedness of what it is to be separate and individual and yet tied to one another. So I pray that you will be inspired. That's my priestly gift to you, Reverend Angela Palacious, signing out.